It's disgusting. The violence is disgusting. We condemn it. We condemn all violence.
Senator,
and
this
threats
happened
of violence.
after you and
But
President Trump were on the debate stage, said
Dana,
that cats and dogs
you
were
asked,
being eaten.
You asked a question, Dana, and I'm going to go ahead and answer it.
Okay, what
we have said is that this town has suffered terribly under the policies of Kamala Harris. Now,
JD Vance, running mate vice president for Donald Trump, went on an interview at CNN against Dana Bash. He absolutely goes in on her. Masterclass on debating her and destroying her on her points. Without further ado, let's get into the full video right here, because he goes off.
Dana, first of all, let me just respond to a couple of things that you said, but I want to start with something you said, which I think is frankly disgusting and is more appropriate for a Democratic propagandist than it is for an American journalist. There is nothing that I have said that has led to threats against these hospitals. These hospitals, the bomb threats and so forth, it's disgusting. The violence is disgusting. We condemn it. We condemn all violence.
Senator,
and
this
threats
happened
of violence.
after you and
But
President Trump were on the debate stage, said that cats and dogs were being eaten.
You asked a question, Dana, and I'm going to go ahead and answer it. What we have said is that this town has suffered terribly under the policies of Kamala Harris. Now, you just accused me of inciting violence against the community when all that I've done is surface the complaints of my constituents, people who are suffering because of Kamala Harris's policies. Are we not allowed to talk about these problems because some psychopaths are threatening violence? We can condemn the violence on the one hand, but also talk about the terrible consequences of Kamala Harris's open border on the other hand. Now, let me just fact check a couple of other things that you said, Dana, because it's important. You said that all of these migrants are in the country legally. They are in the country through what's called temporary protective status.
Right.
That is when Kamala Harris waved a magic amnesty wand, taking people and giving them legal status. That is not to say that they're here legally. That is a terrible indictment of her amnesty policies that have further opened the border and further caused terrible migration into this country.
You might not agree with the policy, and obviously you don't, which is totally fair and legitimate. There are policy disagreements all the time. But the fact is, it is the law because President Biden and Vice President Harris are. But I don't want to frankly go down this conversation about policy,
Dana, you made a point. You don't. I agree. You don't want to talk about policy.
No,
Dana,
what I
want to
talk about
instead of about the fact
Senator,
that
it was
Harris,
your
Dana,
distraction.
Granted amnesty.
You were the one who started
level.
talking about eating dogs and cats.
Level.
You were the one who brought this
my
up.
Constituents
The president
were the
said
ones
it to
who talked about
60
eating
million
dog and
people.
cats, and I talked about it because you were ignoring this community. My constituents talked about it.
Have you been
to
Springfield?
It is my responsibility to surface their concerns when the American media
Have you been
ignores
to Springfield?
Dana, I've been to Springfield probably 100 times in my life.
How about
I've taken my
recently,
children
since
to
you've
get
heard
ice
this?
cream at Young's Jersey Dairy.
Have you heard recently since you've gotten these calls?
Have I been in the last 4 days?
No,
I'm
talking
haven't been
about
in the last 4 days, but I've
since
talked
you've
to a lot
gotten
of
these
people
calls
in
from the
Springfield, Dana,
constituents.
and they're telling me this stuff is happening. Dana, would you like to ask me questions and then let me answer them, or would you like to debate me on these topics? I noticed that when you had Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, you gave them multiple choice answers to the questions that you asked, and you allowed them to answer the questions. I'm happy to be here to talk about policy, but if you're going to interrupt me every single time that I open my mouth, then why am I even doing this? So please ask a question, and I'd ask you to be polite enough to let me answer it.
Yes.
Okay, a lot of talk has been going on right now about the situation in Ohio, Springfield, Ohio, where the migrants there, supposedly of Haitian descent, was not supposedly, this is what's being put out, are having issues in which they are eating different types of animals, ducks, people's cats, pets, for example. And a lot of the Democrats, people on the left, are saying this is absolutely not true. This isn't true at all. This is completely made up by right-wing conservatives. But in actuality, what is true is there are news articles on this of different Haitian migrants who are being accused, and police reports have been written as well on these different individuals who are actually eating these animals. A lot of people have actually already reported on it. Like I said, news articles have been done, police reports have been done, and there are many documentaries actually already being created and reported on this with high in-depthness, with people with photos and some videos on these different individuals who are actually doing this. So to say that this is just a lie and made up, it's absolutely positively not true at all. It is happening. To what extent, we have to see and investigate it more, or you can watch these different things and read the articles yourself and have your own interpretation. But to say that this is made up, it's just a joke. It's not made up. As far as the TPS, the temporary protective status, if you're here, America, illegally, you can get a TPS. Kamala Harris has now put in place the TPS for certain individuals. And she's saying, well, that means they're not illegal anymore. Well, it still means you're illegal. You actually have to be illegal to qualify for TPS. It's no different than if you're a person, for example, committed a crime or being accused of a crime and you're out on bond. Being out on bond gives you the status in which you won't be arrested for the alleged crime and you can move around freely. But if you're out on bond, this doesn't mean that you actually didn't commit the crime. It just means that you are being treated as if you haven't committed a crime. Same thing with the TPS. It doesn't mean that you're not illegal. You're just being treated as if you're not an illegal immigrant. But I wouldn't expect her to be impartial on that. These are political advocates. They're not journalists. And then as you see, Dana goes in directly at him and says, have you been to Springfield? And he says, yeah, listen, I've been there over 100 times in a lifetime. And then she says, well, I mean, have you been there recently? And he's like, well, I mean, what, in the last 4 days since I've spoke about this? No. And obviously she has nothing to say as a result of that. It's just her getting destroyed. And he goes and spins it to her and tells her, listen, why when it came to the debate recently with Kamala Harris and Tim Walsh, you weren't going at them like you're going at me. Fine, you want to go at me? Fine, go ahead. But when it came to them, you were quiet. You were hush. You said nothing. But now you want to come at me with daggers and this and that and press me. You should have pressed them, but you did nothing. You know, like I said, these individuals, they're not journalists. You know, a lot of these YouTubers that I see around here are actually more journalists than these individuals on MSNBC, CNN, NBC, ABC, the list goes on. They're not journalists at all. They are Democratic advocates, activists for the left, for Democratic parties. And if that's what you want to be, then fine. But let's not play like you're something else that you're not. You're not a journalist. You are an advocate for the Democratic Party, for the left. You're not a journalist. Let's just stop it. But anyways, thanks for watching this video. I have more videos coming up, some special videos coming up. You're going to like it. Trust me, it's going to be excellent. Stick around. I'm Mr. Rembrandt. This is Mr. Rembrandt. Make sure you like. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you check out my book down in the description. And I will see you guys on the next video.